Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News Roundup, dateline the 5th of October 2024. This week's headlines. Ayatollah Khomenei gives the Friday sermon. A UK Islamic scholar says women must not use perfume to leave the house. In Pakistan, Zakir Naik was in an orphanage to present the prizes, but he left without doing so. A Catholic Belgian university deplores comments made by Pope Francis moments after he made his speech. The Religion News Service says, when there's polarisation, people stop listening to one another. They go into their silos and they get angry and hateful. Melania Trump passionately defends abortion rights in her upcoming memoir. Christian hate preacher Steven Anderson's children are now speaking out against him. More than half of the population of New Zealand has no religion, and the UK has more atheists than people who believe in God. New research. Here is the news in detail. Iran's supreme leader says that their enemy is one, that October the 7th was justified, and he called for solidarity of the Muslim world because God will grant us mercy. Iran's missile strikes on Israel were correct, logical, and lawful, Ayatollah Khomenei told a vast crowd which had gathered to hear him speak in Tehran on Friday. The country's supreme leader described the attack as the minimum punishment for what he called Israel's astonishing crimes while leading Friday prayers in the capital, something he has not done since 2020. Khomenei's speech came 3 days after Iran fired nearly 200 missiles at Israel in what it said was retaliation for the assassination of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah. During his sermon, Khomenei praised Nasrallah and voiced support for Hamas and Hezbollah, which he said provided vital service to the entire region and the entire Islamic world. He said Iran-aligned armed groups will not back down in their conflict with Israel, which entered a new phase after Hamas launched deadly raids into Israel 1 year ago. Iran is the main backer of Hezbollah and Hamas, as well as other armed groups around the Middle East which have attacked Israel. They often dub themselves the axis of resistance. In recent weeks, several senior leaders of Iran-backed groups and Iran's powerful military wing, the Revolutionary Guard, have been killed in Israeli strikes or presumed Israeli assassinations. The Supreme Leader's appearance in front of a crowd of tens of thousands in Tehran is a sign of the gravity of the moment for the Iranian regime, which is facing widespread domestic discontent. It could be read as an attempt to show strength and to restore Iran's credibility as leader of the axis of resistance. The public appearance was also intended to show that Khomenei is not in hiding after reports emerged that he had been taken to a secure location following Nasrallah's assassination. The Grand Mosalla Mosque was flooded with people after Iranians were given free transport to attend the sermon. A large Palestinian flag was seen in the crowd. Khomenei holds ultimate power in Iran, but very rarely leads Friday prayers himself. An Islamic scholar dictates new rules in the UK, so he thinks. Women must not use perfume to leave the house. Allah does not want it. See this video.
It should not be fragranced or perfumed.
A woman, she's not allowed to put perfume on if she leaves the house. The Prophet, he told us in a hadith, any woman who leaves the house and she places perfume on herself, the Prophet, he said that she's a zaniya. She's a fornicator. So it's very dangerous that you place perfume on yourself and you leave the house. Be careful. That does not mean that you have to smell bad. It doesn't mean that. But it doesn't mean you have to smell or place on yourself perfume. Now,
It should not resemble the clothing of men.
also, it shouldn't resemble clothing that men wear, for example.
In Pakistan, Zakir Naik was in an orphanage. When the little orphan girls were called to the stage to receive the shield, he left the stage without giving it to anyone. His argument is that these little girls are of marriageable age, so Muslim men should not be associated with them. Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl, so these little girls are of marriageable age. See this video. Pope Francis has been sharply criticised by one of Belgium's Catholic universities over his stance on the role of women in society in a strongly worded press release issued just moments after the pontiff spoke at the college. Professors and students at UC Louvain, where the 87-year-old pontiff had made a speech on Saturday afternoon, said they wanted to express their incomprehension and disapproval about the Pope's views. UC Louvain deplores the conservative positions expressed by Pope Francis on the role of women in society, said the statement, in extraordinary language from a Catholic university about a pope. Francis went to the university on Saturday to celebrate his upcoming 600th anniversary as part of a weekend trip he is making to Belgium. His speech largely called for global action on climate change, but he also responded to a letter to him from students and professors that had asked about the Catholic Church's teaching on women. In the letter, which was read out loud to him, the students questioned him on the Church's historical part in entrenching female subservience and the unfair division of labour and even disproportionate female poverty. Throughout the history of the Church, women have been made invisible, the letter read. What place, then, for women in the Church? Francis replied by saying the Church was female, noting that the Italian word for it, chiesa, is a feminine noun. A woman within the people of God is a daughter, a sister, a mother, he said, adding, womanhood speaks to us of fruitful welcome, nurturing, and life-giving dedication. He didn't give any details about potential plans for reform. Polarisation is not good, says a presenter on our Kindred channel, Religion News Service. See this video.
When there's polarization, people stop listening to one another. They go into their silos and they get angry and hateful.
I think that opinion can get ahead of truth, that clicks can get ahead of depth of coverage.
Literally, we're seeing riots happening because of misinformation.
RNS helps people understand what the real deal is, explains it, helps people understand people they may think they disagree with, and sometimes find out they actually have some things in common.
These are the stories that other news organizations don't as often cover.
You can look through the stories of RNS and you can see a country unfolding.
We need understanding.
And I know that as we become a more pluralistic society, the reporting of RNS will be more important than ever.
Melania Trump made an extraordinary declaration in an eagerly awaited memoir to be published a month from Election Day, a month before Election Day. She is a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to abortion. It is imperative to guarantee that women have autonomy in deciding their preference of having children based on their own convictions, free from any intervention or pressure from the government, the Republican nominee's wife writes, amid a campaign in which Donald Trump's threats to women's reproductive rights have played a central role. Why should anyone other than the woman herself have the power to determine what she does with her own body? A woman's fundamental right of individual liberty to her own life grants her the authority to terminate her pregnancy if she wishes. Restricting a woman's right to choose whether to terminate an unwanted pregnancy is the same as denying her control over her own body. I have carried this belief with me throughout my entire adult life. Melania Trump has rarely expressed political views in public, but her book, Melania, which reveals the former First Lady to be so firmly out of step with most of her own party, will be published in the US next Tuesday. See this video.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard. Without a doubt, there is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth: individual freedom. What does my body, my choice really mean?
Over the past few weeks, a couple of the children of Christian hate preacher Steven Anderson have gone public about the physical abuse they suffered growing up. Given that Anderson routinely tells Christians to marry young and have as many kids as possible, the revelation that abuse may be rampant in his own home isn't as much shocking as it is long overdue. Arizona-based Anderson is the de facto leader of a movement called the New Independent Fundamentalist Baptists. New IFB preachers are, on paper, all about following the Word of God as written in the King James Version of the Bible. In reality, they spend their time gleefully trashing LGBTQ people, Jews, effeminate men, and everything else they deem to be heretical. Two of his children, Isaac and Miriam, have released long videos about their childhood. More than half of New Zealand's population now has no religion, which one expert says is being driven by a shift in young people. The proportion of people with no religion has increased from 48.2% of the population in 2018 to 51.6% of the population in 2023. The largest religious group remained Christianity. However, the number of people who identified as Christian dropped from 36.5% to 32.3% over that period. Massey University Professor Emeritus of History Peter Lynham said, The shift is taking place in younger people who no longer see any need to connect with a religious organisation unless they have a strong commitment to it. Young people were previously introduced to religion by attending Sunday school, Lynham said. Those nets that draw in young people just don't exist anymore. There are virtually no Sunday schools. Parents wouldn't dream of sending their kids to Sunday school, so there's very little natural attraction that religions have to widespread numbers of young people. Sunday schools were previously seen as a way to put some morality into children, but there has been a change in society's endorsement of religion, Lynham said. The sacredness of Sunday was gone, and religion was no longer automatically assumed to be good. The other religious groupings were Hindu, which increased from 2.6 to 2.9%, and Islam, which increased from 1.3 to 1.5%. Lynham put this down to an increase in migrants, many of whom were from India. Justin Duckworth, one of 3 archbishops of the Anglican Church in New Zealand and Polynesia, said Aotearoa has moved away from a time when there was a cultural normality around the Christian faith. Across the Western world, there has also been a continuing move towards a secularist, materialist worldview, and a move away from traditional religious beliefs. The UK now has more atheists than people who believe in God, new research has said, with experts saying the UK is entering its first atheist age. The news comes from a global project, Explaining Atheism, which explains why atheism has grown both in the UK and around the world. The research team found that the common notion of the purposeless unbeliever, lacking a sense of ultimate meaning in life, objective morality, and strong values, is not accurate, challenging the stereotype that atheists lead lives devoid of meaning, morality, and purpose. The research team surveyed nearly 25,000 people from across 6 countries around the world to find out why people become atheists and agnostics. They also brought together converging results from the British Social Attitudes Survey and World Values Survey to show the UK now has a relative majority of atheists. Following this news, Tercio and I will be chatting with Christian escapee Sylvie Paris. You can join in by text. This has been Global Atheist News. Please like, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching.